My name is Duddits, I do builds and stuff, and today I've got a solo hunter build that has got two uses. We're going to be focusing it around the acrobat's dodge to make you and your nearby allies radiant on the fly whenever we like. And like I said at the beginning, we have got two ways of using this. We're going to be using it for ourselves to get some massive damage on weapons like Xenophage and Sleeper, and on top of that we are going to be pairing it with Lamina to get Blessing of the Sky damage buff on top of the Radiant for your teammates, so you can use it on your own or with your teammates to buff you and your teammates out. Like I said, two ways of using it. Stay tuned, I'm going to break it all down. I've got loads to show you, stick around. The first exotic to show you is the 6 Coyote. This is quite simple, it gives you a second dodge, so you get two dodges. Pair that with the acrobat's dodge to perform an acrobatic leap. Upon landing, you make yourself and nearby allies radiant. 25% damage increase for you and your nearby allies, but if you're using it for yourself, just having a 25% damage bonus whenever you like with weapons such as Polaris Lance does feel super nice. And on top of that, I'm also running Ember of Torches. Powered melee attacks against combatants make you and nearby allies radiant, so we've got two ways of getting radiant. But with the 6 Coyote, we've actually got two dodges and the knife, so we've got loads and loads of different ways to keep yourself and your nearby allies radiant. And just having that radiant buff really does make a big difference. And it does stack with armor charges as well, so if you're running things like solo weapon charges, you can really take some big advantage of this. And again, this is just like the solo sort of, if you're going to use it for yourself. I will show you some gameplay later on of how it works with your team as well. But just getting the radiant on the fly for loads of different various weapons is a big damage increase, especially if you're stacking it with 3 weapon surges. These all stack together, so you're going to get 25% plus your radiant. Now one of the fragments is Ember of Sin. This is absolutely vital because every time you scorch something, your class ability recharges faster, therefore you're going to be able to do more dodges. If you just look at my class ability here, I threw my knife didn't hit him, but my grenade will hit and scorch, and you'll see that big chunk coming back. Look at that, it's absolutely huge. And then my knife hits him as well, which just carries on that singeing, so I've literally got half of my class ability back, like so. But incandescent weapons to apply scorch for the Ember of Sin as well, and things like gunpowder gamble as well also apply scorch, so it's a really good way of getting your class ability back. Now if you're playing with your team, Lumina is absolutely great for this build, because kills with this weapon leave behind remnants. Absorbing a remnant converts your next hip fired shot into an ally, so you can noble around and partially refills the magazine. But it's got the exotic trait on there, Blessing of the Sky. Using a noble round on an ally heals them, so it heals them, and it grants you and them a weapon damage bonus for a short duration. It's a 35% damage increase, so between that and the acrobat's dodge, you've either got a 25% damage increase for your teammates, or you can give them a 35% damage increase via the Lamina buff. So you can use this in multiple different ways, like so. You can run them, just sometimes what I do is I go a bit mad and I'll apply them both at the same time, but you can actually spread it out and just keep your teammates buffed either with the 35% or the 25%, and it's really good for DPS situations, whether it's raid, dungeon, boss DPS, or even if you're doing just general things, for example like a wellspring and you need to take a tanky target down like so. Just applying the radiant for your teammates, shooting them to give them a 35%, one way or the other, you're giving them a really big damage increase. And like I said, it's really good for all different types of situations. And generally in boss situations, you have got a well, someone running a well of radiance, so Lamina is absolutely perfect for well of radiance as well. So I'm just going to go over a couple of the aspects I like to run with this build. Now the first one is called On Your Mark. Precision final blows grant you and your nearby allies increased weapon handling. Reload speed for a short duration, it stacks up to 3 times, and every time you use your class ability, it is going to immediately give you max stacks. So you're not only giving your teammates massive damage boosts, you are also giving them handling and reload speed buffs as well. Gunpowder Gamble is really good with this build. Defeat targets with solar abilities, solar debuffs, or solar weapons to charge up an explosive, like so. And this just procs your Ember of Sin, plus it's really good for ad clearance as well. Look at that, absolutely crazy. And then the added bonus to this is obviously it's really good for ad clearance, and it's easy to charge up if you're running solar weapons. It does actually proc that Ember of Sin, which I'm sure I've mentioned, but that's just another way to get your class ability back, so it fits very nicely into the build. I'll quickly break down just so we've got it all clear. On Your Mark, which we touched on. Gunpowder, which we touched on. Now your grenades, you can run anything you want apart from healing grenade, as long as it applies scorch, so something like a solar grenade, or incendiary grenade, or thermite grenade, something like that, whatever you want. My knife, I always run proximity, just because if you miss, it stays around, and it's more likely to get a hit to proc your radiant and your Ember of Singeing. And then obviously we've just got the acrobat's dodge, which we've touched on a little bit already. Ember of Singeing, which we've touched on. Your class ability recharges faster when you scorch targets. Now these two, this one next is really important as well. Ember of Benevolence, because every time you apply restoration, Coyote or radiant, it grants increased grenade, melee and class ability regeneration for a short time. Ember of Torches, again, which we've touched on, another way of getting radiant. Now the next one is called Ember of Solace. Radiant and restoration effects to you have an increased duration. That affects you only, so remember that one just for yourself. And then the very last one is Ember of Searing. Defeating a scorched target grants melee energy and creates fire sprite. Now if you're playing on your own, things like Xenophage, or even if you don't want to run Lamina, but things like Xenophage or Sleepy Simulant or even Galahorn, once you've got your Radiant going and your armor charges, you are really putting out some serious damage, especially with Xenophage. Xenophage felt absolutely brutal in GMs with this setup. Just getting Radiant on the fly, you've already got ideally a couple of weapon surges going as well, so you're absolutely getting a massive damage increase. So there is a few different ways to use this build. You can use it with Lamina, or you can use it for yourself and take advantage of some strong solar exotics as well. And you're just a walking wrecking machine for you and your teammates. I'm just going to go over my mods now. On my class item, I like to run a Reaper. Every time you use your class ability, your next weapon kill spawns an orb. That's an obvious one to run. I also like to run a Bomber. Every time you use your class ability, you get a big chunk of grenade energy back, which is a nice bonus. Time dilation to make your weapon or armor charges last a little bit longer. On my legs, you can pair these up whatever you want, but I stick to solar surges. You can run kinetic or arc, whichever weapons you're using, but 2 of these is a really good damage boost, 17%. On my exotic chest, a concussive dampener. I always feel kind of boring going over this because I stick to the same type of thing all the time. I always run a double resistance, an element resistance, whatever is at the time, double arc in this case. On my arms, these are really important as well because bolstering detonation grants class ability when you cause damage with a grenade, which pairs nicely with singeing. I run double of them, so 2 of them, and then I also run causing damage with a grenade, reduces your melee cooldown, momentum transfer. On my helmet, I always run a harmonic siphon, rapid solar final blows, creating orb of power. And then because I'm playing with teams, usually for GM's raids, I always run a heavy ammo finder for myself, and I run a heavy ammo scout to drop heavy ammo for my teammates as well. Now, Ember of Singeing, I just want to touch on this one more time before you go, because your class ability recharges faster when you scorch targets. Now, I did call out my arms. This is why I run 2 bolstering detonations and a momentum transfer, because these all really help Ember of Singeing. Whenever you cause damage with a grenade, it's going to give you class ability, which also works with the Ember of Singeing. Just wanted to show you that, how good that is for getting your class ability back. Really good. If you're playing with a team, obviously you want to be pairing it with Lamina, but we've got some really good non-exotic weapons like Cartesian Coordinate, or even things like the Eremite to take some big damage as well. And then on top of that, for heavies, you've got things like rocket launchers, Heathen Vengeance, fixed dodge for a machine gun, and some really strong solar linears as well. So loads of different ways to use this build. I'm going to leave everything playing out like so, all my mods, and I'll also leave a dim link in the video description. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.